Actually, I guess I'll start with my first paranormal experience, which actually you probably know well, was started in that house that we lived in Wintertown. Oh, yeah. So I think I was like, what, like 13 years old, about 13, almost 14 years old. And we moved to this townhouse that apparently nobody lived in, for what was it, 3 years? And there's a lot to do with the number three with this story too, which is weird. Um, so we moved into this house, and I would notice like small things that were kind of uh, neither here nor there to something that stuck in the back of my mind. Like, I'd my closet door would be open. Like I'd shut it and then I'd come back downstairs and it'd be open. And it's kind of something that um, you're just like, I don't even know if I really noticed that, but something in my mind is telling me something's off, you know? And um, I noticed some things would be moved around in my room sometimes, but then again, it was just one of these things I was like, I put in the back of my mind. I didn't really notice anything at first. Um, and then I would wake up in like the middle of the night and I couldn't move, I wouldn't be like freaked out or anything. I was like really calm, but I didn't understand what was going on. I figured, I was like a teenager. I was skateboarding a lot, and I slept on a water bed that didn't have the heating attachment with it. So I just like chalked it up to the basement's cold, the bed's really cold. I'm wearing myself out skateboarding, many hours of the day. Maybe I'm just exhausted. And but then I get off the school bus and I go home to take a nap, and I wake. This is during the daytime, and I wake up. I can't move except for my head, and I turn over to the left and look at the staircase, and there's the shadow, what looked like a man walking up the staircase. And my first instinct was like to yell for my mom. It's weird because I thought it's like my first thought, it wasn't yelling for my mom because I was freaked out. I was yelling for my mom because I thought it may have been my mom. But like as I'm trying to say this and the words cannot come out of my mouth, I'm I'm like, no, that's not my mom. And I kind of just brushed it off and just went back to sleep. Like nothing ever happened. And I really didn't think about it, you know? Um, and then, so time starts going by. I started noticing, stuff still like, I like clean my room one time on a Saturday. Um, I walk upstairs to make a sandwich. I come back down and my stuff is like everywhere, all over the room, and I was like, I've had experiences, but this is the first noticeable one. And I kind of just like brush it off. Like I'm not, there's like no thoughts going through my mind, you know? Um, and then something clicks. Everybody leaves the house one night. I'm there by myself. I'm up in the living room and I'm watching, it's like the Discovery Channel or something. And they're doing this show on sleep paralysis. And it's like, it's a lot more nefarious, a lot more insidious, where people were saying that, they were having sleep paralysis and they thought they were being attacked by like, some kind of spirit or some kind of entity or something like that. And I never felt like I was being attacked, but all of a sudden my brain just clicked and I'm like, oh, I just get weirded out. I just get really weirded out by this. So I started having this eerie feeling now, and I started noticing that even during the daytime, as I walk down the stairs, so it's like one big open room, and then there's a closet, and then in the back of the room, there's a small room with like, the washer and dryer. Then there's a bathroom inside of that. And I started noticing like as I'm walking down the stairs, the toilet bowl, like the toilet bowl lid would slam. Um, then I realized that I heard this a lot and kind of just brushed it off and didn't even ever think about it. I was like oblivious, really oblivious, you know. But now I'm kind of getting freaked out. So my sister, it was one night, and I'm like, you know, could you walk downstairs with me? And the way that the light switches worked is you had one at the top of the stairs, you had one at the bottom of the stairs. But if you turned one off, you had to turn the other one on. Like if I turned the one on the bottom of the stairs off, I had to turn that one back on to get the lights back on. But if I used the one at the top of the stairs, it would control the lights too. But you could only use one or the other. So this time the one at the bottom of the stairs was turned off. So I'm kind of freaked out, and I grab my sister's hand, and we get like 3 steps down together. We're walking side by side, and then I just hear the toilet bowl lid just slam. We run back upstairs. I'm like, all right, nope, I'm not sleeping down there anymore, you know. And I would only go down there during the day. And this was, I don't know the time frame, but we were about up on our 1-year lease. So I started sleeping upstairs on the couch, and I wouldn't go down there at night anymore. Then we were going to move to a different house after that, and my mom's talking to the landlord, and the landlord was like, yeah, no one's lived in this townhouse for about 3 years because a man committed suicide in the basement. So that was my first paranormal experience. And it didn't really like freak me out in the long term. I kind of just forgot about it for a while. And then my second experience, I don't think I was dealing with like what you would call an earthbound. So that spirit, I would say, is an earthbound, someone who has not crossed over. And so it's a couple years later. I'm like about 19 years old. And my youngest sister, she had this dog. And this dog was pretty much a puppy. It never barked once, has not made a noise since we've owned this dog. And I'm like sitting in the living room in this other house in Southern Maryland. And I have the door open, but the storm door is shut. And we lived down a hill. So there was actually like a stairway to get down to our house. The wind starts sounding like it's picking up. I'm sitting there like playing video games on the couch in the living room. And my dog just starts going nuts. First time I ever heard this dog make a noise. Starts like barking and growling at something outside the window. So I go to check it out, and I'm looking, and a couple stairs up, I see like this, it's like almost like a round shadow on a step. And there's something kind of translucent there, but I can't really make it out. And like I'm in kind of like a very relaxed state of calmness, which is like a lot of my paranormal experiences. This kind of weird like calmness comes over me where I'm observing and I'm not like, had no thoughts are coming through my mind whatsoever, you know. So I'm looking at it, my dog's freaking out, and I see these 2 leaves in the wind, like wrapped around something, like layered, like one's layered over top of the other, and it's wrapped around something that's not there, in like midair. And I'm just looking at it, no thoughts are going through my mind. I'm just like observing. And then it kind of just goes away. The leaves blow away. I was like, oh. I close the door. And then I close the door, and then I just go back to what I was doing, and I just didn't think about it. You know, it hit me like a couple of days later, and I was like, that was odd, you know. But um, I don't know, something. Some I've had a couple other events that weren't necessarily paranormal, but some events where uh, like that threatened my life, and something took over and kind of like basically like guarded me from dying, you know. Um, so another kind of experience I had was uh, I might have explained this on the first episode that we did. Um, I was kind of going through a tough time. I wasn't really going through a tough time in life, but old shit was dredging up. I felt like something was following me around, like something was like standing over my left shoulder. Like I can kind of like sometimes see it out of the corner of my eye. Um, and it was, and years later, I'm thinking that that last experience I was talking about might be linked to this one, but it's like, I'm probably I'm like maybe about 23 at this point, you know, from the age of 19 to 23. And I feel like these two events are linked. So I felt like there was something there and it was playing on my emotions. Like, you know, for some reason, I was getting like angry a lot, you know, emotional, and I couldn't understand why. But it was like becoming more and more frequent. And I worked in this restaurant, and it's like, you know, in the morning, we're doing these lunches for these kids that we would do every morning for this school. It's like a private school. And I'm just like pissed off. I don't even know why, just angry. And there's this I'm working on this big long metal table, and we're like, you know, making the food and like wrapping it and all the sandwiches and like parchment paper and stuff. And then over to the right, there's these shelves, and as I go to swipe this piece of parchment paper out of this box like really fast, at the same time this basket flies across the room, and everybody kind of just stood there in silence. You know, it wasn't like it fell. This thing shot across the room at the same time in the same motion that I swiped this piece of paper across this table. Everybody was kind of like quiet and didn't know what to say. And then my coworker, she's just like, "Who's angry?" You know. And then it kind of sparked me to like go over and pick this basket up and put all the stuff back in it and put it back. And then everybody just kind of went about their day. And then it seemed like pretty much after that, everything subsided. You know, um, that's about the more paranormal events I had. I had some experiences that this kind of level of calmness would come over me where I couldn't think. I would just kind of, I would just kind of just be in this state where I was just like staring off into space. And I was driving with my sister's ex-boyfriend. This is, you know, probably around early 20s. And we're going to this music shop, and I missed the shop, so I had to turn around. You know, I tried. So in order to turn around, there's like it's two lanes, and then there's a lane that turns into the shopping center to the left. And so I take a right into this Cheneyville Enterprises, so I could turn around, and I'm at a light. The light's green, and then all of a sudden, this like calmness comes over me, and I'm just staring at this light. You know, I should be going. It felt like an eternity, but it was probably just like a minute or two. And I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden, in the middle lane, going across, this big truck just flies right through the red light. Once again, I just noticed that. I'm not thinking about it, and I just make my turn and I go about my day. I thought about it a couple of days later. I'm like, oh, that was crazy. I was like, if I would have went when that light turned green, that truck would have smashed right into my driver's side door. And, you know, but start reflecting back, and I start realizing that this like level of calmness would come over me anytime something crazy would happen, you know. But going back to that second experience I was talking about, same house a couple of years later, about 23, 24 years old. And some of the people close to me would notice this thing. Like I just felt like something was always following me around. And my friend lived in the basement. So one night I'm gone, and he's staying in the basement. And he had like this old Randy Couture like UFC like workout thing I put on the door, where it's like it had like these stretchy bands you can grab these things, and you can like it was like a workout. And he while I was gone, he said he was sleeping, and it was on his door, on the outside of his door. And he said that this thing just started going nuts in the middle of the night, like somebody was going crazy on it. And he said he just stood straight up in his bed, like stood up in the bed, and was like freaked out. So I guess apparently the next morning he grabbed all of his stuff and he left. The only time he ever came back was to come grab the rest of his stuff, but all that kind of dissipated. I felt like someone was following me around for a while. And so me and my late sister, we were in the same neighborhood, but me and her went and rented a house together. This is all around the same time, like around the same couple of years. I felt like there was like this presence, Me and my friend are out on the back porch, smoking cigarettes, drinking beer, and I had one of these like timed lights, and it's like the light came on. You saw both of our shadows, staying next to each other. He's to my left. Light goes off. Light comes back on. There's another shadow standing to the right of me. And once again, I'm not even pointing it out. I'm just kind of observing this, And so the light goes back off. Light comes back on. It's just our two shadows again, And I'm not sure exactly what happened. Now that I've gone through shamanism and everything and became a shaman, I can pretty well distinct what it was at this point, but I didn't know back then. But it kind of just went away through, I guess, divine intervention or something, But I found it kind of odd. And then for many years after that, until about 2019, it all kind of just stopped, So I think around the age, must have been around the age of 24 until about 34, I didn't have any kind of experiences, And then the year I go through shamanism, so I got a reading from my friend Erica. Everybody knows Erica, one of the shamanites. She's a fellow shaman. It's been like 2 years. She's been like reading for a year. The first time she gave me a reading. So it's like, 2 years later, I'm like, hey, why don't you give me another reading? My sister passed away at the end of 2017. And this is, somewhere towards the beginning of 2019. And it was still difficult for me to deal with. So she asked me, said, hey, do you want a psychic reading with mediumship and all this stuff? And I was like, no, I'd rather, if my sister came through, I don't know if I could deal with it. So why don't we just do a psychic reading? So she's doing a psychic reading, and she's like in the middle of it, and she's like, hold up, look, I gotta tell you about this. There's a spirit that keeps coming through. The spirit keeps coming through. I was like, all right. And she was describing who it was, and I've never met this person, but as the description is, I knew who it was, this person passed long. It wasn't a relative of mine, but he passed long before I ever met him. And all of a sudden, it all just opens up back again. And I'm trying to remember if right before that, if something happened or if it was right after. I think it was right before that. I'm laying in bed one night in my apartment, and I'm like laying on my side. These things, I started having a lot of these experiences last year. This is the first one, and it always seems to happen when I'm laying on my side with my face towards the wall, away from the rest of the bedroom. Um, I wake up, and something is like gently tugging on my covers behind me at my back. And I'm really tired at this point. I just wake up, it's like almost 3 o'clock in the morning. So I just kind of wake up and I'm just like, my brain isn't really ready yet to understand this, what's going on. But I know that something's tugging on my blanket, and I'm just like, I just kind of disregard and I just go back to sleep, And then I think I had the reading of the spirit. Then I start going through shamanism, and now I'm finding it hard to sleep most nights because I keep getting woken up a lot. I would get woken up at like exactly 2:48 a.m. Not every night, but some nights, and it wouldn't always be at 2:48 a.m. because sometimes it'd be in the same night and it would be a different time. It'd be later. Sometimes it's exactly 3 a.m. But I would keep getting woken up, and it's like I know something is standing right behind me. Um, so in these cases, I've experienced this. I don't really freak out. I just kind of know that something's going on, and I just go back to sleep. I'm like, whatever. These things don't really bother me too much. Um, and then it seemed like as I was going through shamanism, we would have a course, and every time we had a rite distilled on us, something crazy would happen. You know, something crazy would happen like that night that I went to sleep. I One night we without giving away too much detail what shamanism is, or what's involved in that, or what rights you get distilled on you, but one particular one, I go to sleep and I wake up to what sounds like rustling papers in my room. There's no paper anywhere in my room, but it sounds to me like rustling like papers, like someone's going through something like vigorously, like rummaging through something pretty quick. And I feel in the middle of my back like a pull, like I guess it's kind of hard to describe, but I'll try. It's like basically I felt like my energy was connecting or feeling something else that was behind me, and I didn't feel anything bad, but I knew the size and the shape of what it was, and it was big. It was like tall. It was. I felt like it was wide, and it was about as tall as my door, and that's about roughly the place it was standing. But I felt the vibrations of this thing. I've never felt that before, never felt it after, but I felt the size of this thing, and I felt the vibrations, and it's hard for me I try to picture in my mind what that is, what the vibrations are, and it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of difficult. It's like a constant bubbling of something, you know and I just felt it moving around. And I'm awake. I am wide awake at this point. Um, I'm not freaked out, but I'm just like, okay, I'm not turning around, but I feel you. And then the noise stops, and it just goes away. Yeah. So and that was about maybe the last presence I felt. And then I start going through this shamanism thing, and I meet someone who actually helped me deal with these issues. Um, I actually had a spirit unknowingly to me. And now I'm like, I was new to all this stuff. I had no idea about anything, but looking back, I'm seeing that certain things happened, even if it didn't seem like it was very good, but it was to show me how things felt and how they worked so I could understand and get more in touch with my energy. So apparently I'm actually having a right distilled on me one night, and a spirit, without my consent or knowing, just merges with me, and it kind of just stuck there. But I noticed for like 2 weeks, um I am dead tired, like not even just tired, like I feel like I'm being pulled into the floor, like I have the energy is being sucked out of my body, which was the lesson that I needed to learn, the difference of being tired and to know when something is pulling the energy out of you. So it was an experience. And then one of the adepts who was assigned to me, this is level 2, I met with her, and she changed everything for me. Apparently earthbounds, like I said, who are souls who have not crossed over yet, apparently my whole life they were always like, I'm like a shining beacon. I'm sure a lot of us in the community are. I'm sure a lot of people out there are who don't know it yet, but apparently I'm like a beacon to these things. They're always hanging around. And so she shows me how to protect myself, and I start doing these things that I didn't know about, and these things I disregarded, spiritual hygiene, cleansing myself, certain things I got to do to basically, keep these things like at bay. But that changed my life. And then she starts listing off all these ailments, like issues with the stomach. Like I've had issues with my stomach for years, and like I'm like pretty much a health expert at this point, because I had all these issues that I felt terrible for like the last 5 years, that I was trying to I was thinking that there was something wrong with me, because I used to travel, in different countries and stuff, and I would eat their food and I would get sick. So I figured like my gut was all messed up and stuff like that. But she starts describing all these ailments, and I'm like, I have every single one of those things you're talking about. And that's the deal with earthbounds. Um, and then, once I meet with her and once I learn all these things, and then the issues stop. You know, but these are all, this, when before I got into this, I reflect on all these experiences, and then I realized that there was something that was always there, and it was always to prepare me. you know um it's like, some of the lessons in life that you need to learn to make you the strongest are the toughest ones, like having a spirit merge with you unknowingly and sucking the life force out of you. you know Now I understand what that is, and actually that's kind of the way that I learn. You could tell me all day and I believe you, but um I experiencing it for myself now, I understand, because not only does someone tell me these things to look out for, but also I have the physical experience, and now I know I'm more connected with and more in tune with my energy. I'm still in development, so I have a long way to go. But now I know when something's pulling the energy out of me. I know the difference between being tired, and you just know. You know. Hey, mom.
Hey,
So I'm not sitting here talking to myself. I know you got
no,
something you can add.
um, I know I've been woken up on 2 occasions with um, something calling my name and there being nobody there. Uh, the first one was during the middle of the night. Somebody, clear as day, I heard my name called, and I looked around. My husband's asleep. but I definitely heard my name, clear as day. And the second time, I thought my husband was calling me. It was during the morning, and I thought he was calling me to get up for work. And then, I'm getting angry because I'm like, oh, he's not even coming back here to wake me up. He's like calling me from the living room. Like, how messed up is that? And then I realized, oh, he's been gone for like at least an hour because he had to go into work early that day.
That's
So
strange.
yeah,
Audible.
huh?
Yeah, you get the audible. You've had some visual experiences. I think actually going through shamanism or right after shamanism. I think you've.
Right. We had to do a house clearings or a blessing or you know basically just you walk through the house and you're gritting it and you're blessing it. And so that's what I was doing. And I finally I get back to the room that used to be yours,
Mm-hmm.
and I look to the left of me and I see kind of like not not very clearly, but I don't see a face, but I see someone standing next to me wearing a white t-shirt with the yellow stripes on the sleeves and jeans, and it kind of startles me because this is not what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking my own house, like, I should know what's in it. But and I turn my head and thinking, well, maybe it's something out of the corner of my eye. And I look back in, it's still standing there, and I get very angry at this point, and I yelled at it, get out of the house, which is not what you're supposed to do. You should be respectful because they are, even though they're gone, they are still people.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was just so startled. I felt like I had to be a little aggressive because I
Yeah.
could I could see it standing there with its arms crossed, and I'm like, "Oh no, you're not. You're in my house."
You know,
And
it reminds
yeah,
me of so remember when we lived back in Leonardtown at that one house? And do you remember when my little cousin Alyssa would
hmm,
talk to Pop Pop,
oh yeah,
and he passed before she was born. And that, for people to know, that would be my aunt, your sister's daughter. And she must have been like what, like 2 years old or something like that. And she would talk to Pop Pop, which is strange because she's never met him, and that's exactly what we called him. We called him Pop Pop.
right.
I always thought that was kind of
Yeah,
odd.
she had just turned 3 years old when we
Mhm.
moved in those houses.
Threes. This number three keeps coming up around that townhouse a lot. The third
Well,
step, 3 years, the age three. Like it's so strange.
yeah, because that's when we lived 2 doors down from them.
Hmm.
So yeah, she would come walk back and forth to the houses and just have conversations.
I didn't
But
realize.
she wasn't old enough to know what you guys call them
Yeah,
or
yeah, because he passed like
in
at least
'95.
yeah, in at least 3 years,
No, it was
like
longer than that.
4 years. Well, yeah, I was 10.
It
I
was
was
5 years.
five
It
years.
was
Yeah,
no, it was longer. It was eight
I,
years.
I was 10 years old.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it's gotta be 8 years. Yeah, my math is my worst skill. you know, but well, it's just funny because we're talking about paranormal experiences, but we talk to spirit, all the time, which I don't. It's funny because I don't consider that like paranormal. You know.
No,
Um,
it's the stuff you're not expecting.
yeah, yeah. I'm surprised it hasn't happened more often. Yeah, it makes me think back to when I was a kid, if I ever experienced anything like that, and I don't have any memories of it, you know. But yeah.
Well, I can tell you one time, your stepfather, like, so, your grandmother lived with us for a while and whatever. So they were, they were close. And he told me one night, now he would always see her walking through the house after she passed. Yeah, I never saw her, but he would always see her. And then one night she actually she pulled the covers up on him.
I think it's funny how that works too. It's like I guess the spirit would all reveal themselves to particular people.
Hmm.
You know, but yeah, I wish some other people would join in, come share their experiences. I'm sure as the channel grows, more people will join.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's about all the paranormal experiences I have so far. So far in my life. I know it was pretty crazy last year. Yeah.
Yeah, Earthbound's love you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's as my vibrations raised, things are different now. Plus, using cascarilla powder and stuff like that. Um, I actually have a combination of spray that I use. It's like holy water, war water, cascarilla powder, and like selenite and like Florida water that I put in a spray bottle.
You really want to cover all angles, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I instead of like I got tired of putting this powder on because it's like I look like freaking Scarface lives in my apartment. It's like white chalk powder footprints and shit everywhere. you know,
I know. I had to stop wearing it too because putting crosses on your wrists doesn't send out a good message to people who don't know what's going on.
I developed something that I actually got the idea from another tribe member. He gave me this idea. I had the same thing. I turned it into a spray because you know me, I have like zero patience. So, so I actually made this off of her suggestion, and it's got this little roller ball on it.
Oh, okay.
So you know how the cascarilla powder, it's a powder, you know what I mean? But so
Mm-hmm.
it's in here with everything else, and you just want to roll it on, you shake it up, and now you can just roll it onto the areas.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's a lot more convenient, right? So.
Yeah, better than putting your white crosses all over your forehead.
Yeah, it was getting ridiculous in here. Stuff's everywhere, and then it's just and I can carry that around with me too. If someone suggested that, I was like, well, always keep it on. You keep it in your car. It's like I don't want to get pulled over for any reason. They just see this chunk of white powder, and then that's not a good look. Maybe,
Right.
maybe this is a little bit easier, but it's definitely helped. It's definitely helped because remember for years I would complain about stomach issues and stuff like that, and
Mm-hmm.
I could never do anything about it. Like I would do deep research into health, like not even just like the standard, medical stuff. I mean, I'm like a conspiracy person, so like the standard medical stuff I would read into, but I would never trust too much of it. And then I would get more into the holistic stuff, and then I would like deep dive into some conspiracy channels about different like herbs and different kinds of. I remember I would always be buying all kinds of like stuff, that
Right.
I would use all the time, and it's because like my stomach was always messed up and everything, and that's one of the biggest ailments of it. And then I go through this thing, and she helps me out, and then it just goes away, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So um, I was like, oh, I didn't have a health issue. I had a freaking ghost issue. Like, you know what I mean? Hanging around me all the time.
Right. Right.
You
Well,
know.
even now, like today, and they must have sensed I was gonna, like, I didn't even know I was gonna do this, but
Hmm.
they must have had the sense because I could feel stuff. I could feel being followed around all day.
Yeah. Hmm.
I'm like, okay. I come in the house after going somewhere, and I kind of think I see something sitting in a chair. I see something standing by as I come in the door, and I'm like, okay, I'm alone, but I'm not alone.
Yeah. That's also funny with like mediumship. When you do mediumship, like spirits come in. It's like a divine thing. You don't even know you're going to do it. Like I've done a mediumship session. It just like popped into my head. I had absolutely no plan of doing it, and it just popped into my head, and I just did it. And the spirit came in, and it's like, I got this woman, and I asked her name, and she gave me her name. And then it kind of linked up, we were doing like homework, and it's like my intuition was going off. So I posted in this thing like, hey, who wants to do this? And the first person I was like, the first one to reply, you win. The first person replied. Well, before they even replied, I saw their name, and I'm like, that's going to be the person. And sure enough, they replied. And then the spirit who came in and told me their name was linked to that person. It's just so
Right.
it's so funny how that works. And I've heard that before. Before I even started doing mediumship, I heard that they always come to you. But that's different. A crossed over soul, as opposed to what I was always dealing with. Earthbounds. That's two totally different things. Saying they're people and they deserve respect and everything, but frequency wise, vibrational wise, it's two totally different realms. And there was another time. I wish she was joining in on tonight, because I was telling you this story where I did a mediumship session as like homework, because I don't do it like regularly, but we go through it, and I get this doll, this image of this doll in my mind, blonde-haired, pink dress, and I actually saved like just this little clip just to do like maybe a partial episode on like Earth as incorporates into Earthbounds. So we do the mediumship session. It's with a crossover soul that's related to this person, and I said something about this doll, and then we continue on conversation after that, and she shows me a picture of this doll. Like, it's weird because I'm actually like at the gym at this point. It's like an hour later, I'm like on the elliptical, and she sends me this picture, and I just like get this funny feeling, and I'm like, that's what I saw in my mind. I saw this doll with pink hair and a pink dress and blonde hair, and it's like, it's strange because the significance of the doll didn't mean anything to me at the time. It didn't mean anything in the reading, and it kind of almost, it meant something at this point, but we were trying to figure out how it was related. So it's just the picture of the doll gave me a feeling. I start looking at it, and I'm like, there's something there. There's something there, and I get this feeling on the left side of my chest, and I'm like, someone in either that I can't see in that photo or attached to that or something like that, they died of a heart attack, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. We're talking about it, and I'm just like, I'm off. I'm like way off, but I'm kind of related to getting to what this is. I'm like a factory worker. Is it something with the doll? But it's not a factory worker. It's not a factory worker, but it's someone who works with their hands. Someone who does this kind of labor, and then she's like, oh, I just remembered a month ago, my mother said that her gardener passed away of a heart attack. So she's like, oh, she starts talking to the spirit, she starts talking to this spirit, and it's a Hispanic man, and he was a gardener. Well, I guess she took her kids to like gymnastics or something like that, and it was there with another family, and I guess because it could see her, it followed her home. So I guess she wasn't aware at the moment, and then she crossed it over. So it's just kind of funny how it worked out, and I guess I was thinking, I was like, it's not your daughters, but maybe it's something to do with like a daughter or children. And then she was speaking to him, and she said, oh, he misses his family, and then she was able to actually like cross him over. So it was just kind of funny how all those events worked out. And, it's like the doll didn't have a whole lot of meaning in it. It didn't have like something to do with the spirit, but it was something to do like, this poor guy missed his family and everything, and but he got the help he needed. you know um It's pretty crazy how that works. What are my what is my meeting ID up in here? See if anybody in the chat room wants to come in and join on the conversation. Let's see. Let's see. What is my meeting ID? I have no idea. Hmm. Yeah, hopefully somebody's going to join in. I would love to hear some people's experiences, for sure. I always like, I got this idea because I always like listening to that Coast to Coast AM. They would do every Halloween, they would do a Ghost to Ghost AM, and they would just have like people come in and talk about their experiences. I would listen to that stuff for hours. Like usually right around like Halloween, I'd listen to it. I was always interested in it. I remember I wanted to go like, ghost hunting, when I was younger. We went down to what is that, Piney Point or Point Lookout?
Mm-hmm.
They say that place has like all kinds of
Well, because if you look at the history of that area, like down in Point Lookout, whatever, were there were at least two very, very bad hurricane storms.
and before that there was massive, from what I read, there was massive battle,
Yeah.
they still have this, they still have the barracks down there, and like the smallpox barracks are still preserved. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been there, but I'm sure it's still there. But I wish they still had all the information, because on the DNR's website, it was weird because it's DNR, they're like, the police for, the parks and stuff. But back then, when I was a teenager, I would go on their website and it'd be nothing but ghost stories.
Yeah.
I tried to look at it about a couple years ago, and of course it's all like official and everything, and I couldn't find any archives or nothing. I really wish that they still had like all those old archives, because it was crazy. It was like an official police, local police website, and it was just nothing but ghost stories, and people were like, talking about their stories. I remember this one story. That this DNR, a lot of it was related to the DNR, their experiences, policing this area. This this DNR guy, he sees this woman out on the beach, looking like frantic, and so he gets out to help her, and she's like, I guess if I can remember right, she's looking for her children. He's like, okay, ma'am, I'll help you. Let me help you get her children. I think something along the lines is he goes back to his vehicle and he comes back and she's gone. And then it leads to them searching for these children, and something leads them to actually like trying to like stick post into the water line to look for something, and they find two tombstones that say the children's name. At least that's what I read on the website. But I heard I know someone who grew up right down there, and they said for them, like, to see orbs and stuff was just like a way of life, because they were children. It's like all the time they would see stuff, and then actually, you remember Bertie's ex-boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
They said that they had some experiences that they would see like old like old guys who looked like they were dressed up in like Civil War garb. You know what I mean? I went down there once. We can never find anything, but now that before I went into this thing last year, I was like, oh, I want to start this channel, and I want to I want to start this channel. Maybe we could do some like paranormal investigations and stuff. And then I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. Like just because it's different now. I guess when you start doing like mediumship and stuff like that, it's like I don't really need to go find.
Look for them.
I don't need evidence. I don't need to find
Right.
evidence. And then also there's another thing about respect because just like you love those shows too, and I love those shows. I'd always watch these shows, and it always fascinated me. But one thing I always did notice even before I went into this is like these guys, they would always go around messing with this stuff. They would like antagonize these spirits.
Right.
Some shows are different than others. Some people are more aggressive, and then they start sharing their experiences later about how this stuff would like follow them home, and and I guess they would start getting like attachments and stuff like that. And they would start messing with them. And now that I'm more aware, and then I'm like, oh, I would, it'd be cool, but I'm like, I'm not going to go mess around. It's like walking
Right.
somebody's home and start putting your feet on their couch. you know, um, I'm just, it's different now. Like, it's better to have respect for them. Yeah. But it's actually I seen Bobby just commented Leonardtown is a haunted bridge. That Leonard, I'm talking about when I said that townhouse that we lived in for a year that was haunted. That was in historic Leonardtown, and
Yeah, right at the top of Washington Street.
Washington Street. And
Yep.
remember I worked in that old restaurant right in
Mm-hmm.
Town Square, and
Down at the bottom of Washington
down the
Street.
bottom, and they would tell me. So they opened this restaurant. It's the old Duke building, which it had a bunch of shops in it, a restaurant. It was a big building, probably one of the biggest ones there. And they had a whole upstairs and stuff. And the upstairs that they had was that had like this old bowling alley up top. I mean, like super old, where you would like people would actually hand set the pins, and they just used it as like a storage area. And apparently, one of the Duke brothers lived up there. I guess he did maintenance, and his old bedroom and stuff was still there. And so his old bedroom was still there, and I would have to go up there, and like they had some freezers and stuff up there, and of course they like to play pranks on me and lock because you can to stop people. You didn't want anybody to like come in through the window and like rob the place, so they would have a lock on the outside of the door leading up to the stairs. So they tricked me, like, hey, go up to the freezer up at the top of the stairs, and they'd lock me in there. But they said when they first moved in that they had all kinds of, it's an old building, so they had all kinds of problems with this place, leaking pipes, nothing was just working. So they would take all these pictures because they started noticing that tools were like shifted around and stuff like that. And then they showed me this picture of like all these handprints, and I can't remember the guy's name, but it was the name of the guy who passed away. Of course, they're just showing me all this stuff. This is around the time I'm having a paranormal. I'm living in a basement with a guy who killed himself. you know, um, and then actually, my boss, she like said that one day when they were still doing construction on a place, like she just pleaded, like, please stop. Could you please stop? And she said like everything just kind of chilled. It all just chilled. Like pipes stop leaking. Tools stop like. And I mean, when I say like a tools, like one of those big tabletop bandsaws. They said that was like in a different place. And I guess it's always like starts out the same way where you kind of, it's like almost like cognitive dissonance a little bit, but not the exact definition, where it's like, something happened, but you can't really prove it. So you kind of just put it in the back of your mind until like it starts growing and growing and growing, and um, you start seeing more evidence of it, But that place always had something to it,
Well,
Um,
in Cedarhurst, what used to be the Bayview Inn,
mm-hmm.
that was always
The brick
there's
house.
always rumors, huh?
The brick house.
There was
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was rumors that was always haunted. So But
Double
if
ghost of
you,
Rose.
yeah, but if you actually go and look at the pictures, or at least when I would go in there and I would look at the pictures that they had hung up on the wall, just people, patrons taking pictures.
Hmm.
In every picture, you would see all these orbs. So it's like, was it just a legend that got out of hand that people just kept retelling? Or was there something actually to it?
I know
And
a little bit more. I know a little bit about it because I know the owner, and I was actually just talking with him Thursday night about this. I was
mhm,
there, and I was like, "Hey, I know people who do house clearings. If you And he thought, because there's the 3 floors, so he actually lives there. He lives on the second floor, um, and then he lives on the third floor. He said the third floor freaks him out. He won't go up there, but he stores like a bunch of shit up there. And he said he said he's like freaked out. He'd never like to go to the third floor, and so I just mentioned to him, I was like, I was like, hey man, I know people who could take care of this issue. Like, I could probably do it, but it's one of those things that I'm still not like 100% about. But and he was like,
well,
he
too, I mean, but Cedarhurst used to be a plantation,
oh really?
and hmm and that restaurant, or brick house,
Mhm.
um, it was one of the main houses on the plantation.
Oh really? Oh, so it's got some juju going on there.
And there's one other house that's way back, like in the corner of the development, down by the bay, that is also an original house.
Really. um Not only the plantation, but so if you go to that old restaurant, and for anybody who doesn't know, we're talking about the Cedarhurst Shadyside. This is actually where we lived before we moved down to Southern Maryland. Before I started experiencing all this other stuff. But you go to that what is that? There's a restaurant, down by that elementary school I went to, and when you go in there, they have like these mats, and it talks about, I can't remember the tribe of Native Americans, but it talks about these Native Americans that were like, they did a lot of their hunting and stuff like that in the swamps, because that whole place is a swamp. The elementary school was built on a swamp. But then it starts talking about it's weird because it's a placemat to go eat lunch at, but it tells you about how these Native Americans originally lived there. And I wish I could remember the tribe name. Um, and that when the settlers came over here, they basically eradicated these Native Americans in that area. And I'm sure that there's got to be some residual energy and stuff from that. What? Yeah, it's
I remember one time when your grandparents were looking, before you moved to Cedarhurst, um, they were looking for a house. We were moving out of Forestville, and we were looking to move further south. And so I would go and, check out houses with them. And we went to this one house. It's in Lothian, and we go in the house, and I'm telling you, I was like so thankful my parents didn't buy the house, because when we walked in the house, there was like such a presence there. You could feel it.
something
And I
heavy.
didn't feel it huh?
Something heavy, you think?
It was something. But at the time I was like 18 years old, and I walked in this house. And to this day I just remember, and it was an old house, and it was actually an estate that someone was selling because they're relative, you know. And we walked in the house, and I'm like getting all these bad vibes being in the house. And we walk out, and I'm thinking, please do not buy this house. And uh, thankfully they didn't, but they bought the house down in Sears. And I wasn't with them when they went through that house. But the first day I walked into it, I'm like, this house there's something wrong with this one too.
Somewhere off this one too. You know, I've always, and I don't know if it's because I grew up in that area and my experiences growing up and stuff, or the people I know, or just my experiences, growing up around that area as an adult and going back there as an adult and stuff like that. But I just always felt like something about that place is just not right.
Yeah, yeah. There was nothing. The first day that I walked into it, I'm like, and it was a different vibe than the old house that we looked at. And I had gone and looked at other houses with them, but it was only that really historic house that we looked at, and then that house. And the first day I stepped foot in, I'm like, there's something wrong with this house. And like the whole time we lived there, like it just was never like right. It
Yeah,
was just,
it's probably right that that house was basically abandoned like after we
yeah,
moved out.
yeah.
I
Like it was just,
I don't remember
and we knew the people who built the house, or at least the woman. It was a couple that um, she actually they divorced and she moved across the street, and so we met her. And I'm like, oh, now I'm starting to kind of get a picture of why this house feels the way it does, just
Yeah,
because you could tell like some of the, it's like a residual type of thing that, but it was more than that. It was just a very off house.
who
It
knows
always
what
felt
they
like it
were.
had a black cloud over it.
Yeah, it does actually. I don't know if it's because of my experience or whatever, growing up, but I would always have nightmares about that house, and it'd be like weird nightmares. It wouldn't have to do anything with any of the people,
Yeah,
but it'd be like different situations or different stuff. But it'll always go back to that house. It'd always be something. Chris, Chrysalis says she still has nightmares about that house. My nightmares stopped, but my whole life I would have nightmares about that house, and it's nothing about my experiences in the house or anybody who lived in the house or anything. But it'd be like just having a nightmare that would always happen to take place in that house. You know what I mean? And I would have that
right.
for years. It was strange. Something always brought me back to that place. No, it would never be any kind of memories or anything. It'd just be off the wall shit. A lot of it I can't remember. I do remember one, and it was like that game Resident Evil. Um,
Oh God.
and of course that was like the graphics were terrible and stuff because I was a kid and it was old. But I just like had this nightmare one time where it's like the whole house was infested with these like zombie dogs and stuff like that. Just stuff like that. Like it'd always be some kind of perilous some kind of peril would be happening and I'd be like in that house. But there's just something about that area. It's not just that house that's got a dark cloud. Something about that area's got like a dark cloud about it. And maybe there is just a lot of that history. Plus I'd hang out at that old bar, which I'm pretty sure, you know, uh my grandfather, I think he was I might be mistaken, but I think that bar I would hang out at right there at the edge of that neighborhood used to be the Moose Lodge.
No, no, not that.
Not that one. I know there is a Moose Lodge over there. For some reason, I thought that place was at one time a Moose Lodge or something, or it was open. I know it was open when I was a kid, but I'm talking like before that. Um, I
Oh,
would,
the bar that yeah, it used to be, yeah, it used to be some type of moose lodge or something.
yeah, I don't know if Grandpa went to that one, but
No, no, not that I'm aware of.
yeah, because I know there's another one down there, but actually there's like two, but I know that place has got something going on with it, and of course the restaurant in the middle of the neighborhood,
Yeah,
um, definitely's got something. And now that I'm more aware, I walk into that place and I'm just like, I stay pretty oblivious most of the time, but like I'm more aware of something going on there, and not really like bad per se, but there's stuff there.
yeah,
We always be when we were like little kids, we'd always have that urban legend, the ghost of Rose, and we'd stand out on the street at night, like staring into the windows long before they opened it up, and just trying to see if we can catch a glimpse of a spirit. yeah. Um, a lot of some
there
people.
definitely was something to it though, because if you look at all the pictures that people just took over the years and they hung up, like it was it was like, because it was kind of a dark restaurant, like there wasn't, it was not like a very well lit.
No, it's
restaurant,
still not. It's still not. Yeah.
but in every picture, just it struck me as odd. It's like you would see these balls of light, not just one, like multiples
Mm-hmm.
throughout the pictures, and not like you know, you would think if it was like a lighting, some type of lighting or something that the camera was, you know, bouncing off lights, you would see them consistently, but no, they were just in random spots throughout all the photos.
Yeah. Now that there's some comments on the feed right now about, the history of Maryland and a couple different places. Um, the place is called the Brick House. It may have been called the Bayview Inn at one point. It's been the Brick House for over
Since we moved,
21 years, I think.
yeah,
Because I was just there for New Year's Eve, and that was like their 21st year. But they call it the Brick House now. I think it might have been the Bayview Inn.
it was the Bayview Inn.
Bayview Inn. It's in Cedarhurst, Maryland, down a shady side. Now that I'm thinking about it, we should probably do a show on the history of all these different places in Maryland. There's a lot of history. Remember, like Dr. Mudd's house is a famous one.
Even Harper's Ferry, for anybody who's ever been up there.
I'll tell you about Harper's Ferry. This is interesting. So the shamanism is complete. We're doing these other courses. So I have to drive to Ohio, and I'm driving through, not right through Harper's Ferry, but basically I see the signs and everything. And the first time I'm just driving through it, and I felt like, usually like in your spleen chakra, I felt like a stabbing pain. And then on the way back through the same spot, I just felt like something, not like sharp, but something with like, um, some kind of like, not claws, but some like kind of at least fingernails or something, just like it's like on my side, just kind of gently, not roughly, but like kind of gently, like scrape my side. And I checked, and there was nothing there. But I'm like, I felt that. But it's just weird because I felt odd just driving through it the first time, and I felt odd um, driving through it the second time. And my friend, I wish he would have came on tonight because he's got a lot of experiences, and he lives close to West Virginia, and he goes there, and he's pretty open himself. I really wish he would have came on here because he's got all kinds of stuff to talk about. But he went there, and I'm pretty sure there's like some crazy stuff going on. I'm pretty sure that there's like a portal or something open. He could feel those things too. I think he said he went to like a tour one time, and the guide he's like, yeah, I can't even paraphrase, honestly. I'm just kind of going off memory a little bit, but I think he was saying, he's like, he felt kind of like a pull or kind of odd around a certain area. And then I guess because the way that he was talking, the tour guide, who must be doing this a lot, probably hears it all, and he's like, I usually don't talk about the stuff, but he's like, said something like, I think there's like a portal around here. Like, I would be interested to find out the history of Harper's Ferry, because it's like,
Well, Harper's Ferry too is there's a lot of Civil War, like major battles fought in that area, and um, it was also the Underground Railroad went through there.
oh yeah.
But there was one I remember story from just like being a kid going up there and like getting the books because you can get a number of books because there's so many stories people told over the years. And it's the one people say they sit at the bottom of this hill and they put the car in neutral and something pushes them up the hill.
Oh wow.
And what people have said they saw or they think it is the the Civil War soldiers, I don't know which side, are pushing the cannon up the hill. So they believe, and again, it could be just, folklore, people just telling stories over and over again. But, you know, there are lots of stories that go back to seeing soldiers in, military outfits.
I believe it. I believe anything at this point.
Right.
I was just listening to a thing about how Bigfoot could be like this interdimensional creature and stuff and all kinds of stuff. It's like I believe it. You know,
That's why the shoes can never find them when they go look for them.
I actually had a reading done for me. Remember, you were there at the time. Do you remember we were over at Erica's house and that
Oh,
same lady. She's really cool. She died. I did that mediumship reading for her with the Earthbound and all that stuff. And she's like, she goes, I see you like searching for Bigfoot, and you're like, you can almost find him, but you never find him. He's like hiding behind a tree. He's like around you, and you never find him. I was like that sounds like a good metaphor. She goes, I don't think it's a metaphor. I think you're really actually looking for Bigfoot. like, like maybe one day, that was, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go looking for something I'll never find.
right,
And I don't know what I would do if I found him.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were talking a lot about, so they were talking about Bigfoot, and then they actually start going into the Bible. I need to listen to this episode again so I can remember like which scriptures they're talking about. Talking about giants, in the Bible, and they think that like the two were linked together. It would be kind of odd. They always talk about like this thing called the Nephilim, like the fallen angels and stuff like that. Maybe they're kind of descendants of these giant aliens. I don't know. I got I I talk about enough crazy stuff. I don't, that stuff interests me, but I'm not I'm not going to try to start convincing people there's freaking interdimensional Bigfoots and stuff. I'll just I'll stick to what I know. I know
Yeah.
there's spirit. I know we can communicate with spirit. I think hopefully Bobby is going to join us. Bobby. Bobby. Yeah. Hopefully she'll join us. You got to tell her to join us because I know she's got all kinds of stuff she can share. Yeah. Yeah. I it's not something I necessarily am intrigued in looking for anymore. I was never looking for like
Right.
I was never looking for shadow figures, but I find it funny that you see a lot of people who are into this, especially like shamans and stuff like that, who deal with sometimes maybe more of the heavier side of things, who got like all kinds of experiences from, when they're kids growing older, or, it's kind of just, it's seeing through the veil. I haven't seen anything in a long time, but I feel it for sure. I feel it. I know when there's a spirit, particularly, I have to do some more communication with my guides about it. But I know, like, when the top back of my head, I feel that, or it feels like a burning sensation or something, just the very top back, like I know that there's something, there's a spirit standing right behind me trying to communicate with me. But they always come in when I'm like playing PlayStation or something. I'm like, really? Come on, like, I feel like a dick sometimes, and I'm just like, hey, can I just like, I'm playing Call of Duty. Can we schedule this for another day? It's probably important. It's probably really important. Like, hey, I need to talk to you for a minute. I'm just like,
Don't you think that's why they wake you up at night, because you refuse to talk to them when you're playing PlayStation?
Yeah. They haven't woken me up in a long time, but I think that there's the difference. I think I was getting woken up by more lower vibrational.
Yeah, I meant to tell you, when you moved out, you should have taken all your earthbounds with you.
There's plenty to go around. You can make a living, crossing earthbounds over. I don't mind. I did for a while. I did kind of have like some PTSD about it, and then I learned to treat them with more respect. Because I would always be like, um, um, I would treat him with more respect now because, at one point, like we were doing exercises and crossing him over, and I'm just like, all right, do you want to go? You don't want to go? But then again, I was so physically affected by earthbound spirits that once I started opening up, I'm just like, I kind of had a little PTSD about it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it right now. But now I have a different perspective because I don't want to be like that. Show respect.
Well, and too, when you learn how to cross spirits over, earthbounds over, it kind of really does. You really do learn about the true meaning of free will,
Yeah.
because you cannot force them to cross over. It has to be their, willingness.
Oh, got a participant. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. I just thought I'd come on
Great.
and share my story. I'll try to condense it as much as possible. It's really extensive. If that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. So starting about 5 years ago, my parents moved to Georgia from Maryland and got a house, and stuff started happening a little bit in the very beginning. I mean, like even before they bought the house. But my dad was the one that had the experience. He was in the bathroom and he was pushed to the ground. And he didn't bother telling us that until a year later because he was more of a skeptic and in denial. So things started happening. My brother ended up moving there. And within 6 months, mind you, he was an alcoholic. However, it was accelerated greatly due to the activity in the home. Within 6 months, he went to stage 4 cirrhosis and passed. It has been validated by many different readers that it was accelerated. And of course, after that, then the activity started really, really getting bad. The beginning stuff like the sounds and the smells and the moving of the furniture. And then it started getting physical, very physical. Separately, my mom and dad have both been to the ER separately on 3 separate occasions. Physical attacks, very, very physical, deadly attacks. At that time, that's when I decided to contact the Dead Files. And they came out, and then, of course, we were on the Dead Files, and it really, Steve really couldn't find much as far as you doing the research. However, later on, I took it upon myself to do some further research with the help of other friends and found out that the history was, it was on the Bel Air plantation, very famous plantation, 400 acres, and had a lot of voodoo history. One of the ladies who was transferred from Virginia plantation, Pleasant, she was there and she was pregnant by rape, mind you. One of the hands that was there raped her and got away with it. She gave birth to Mary Ellen Pleasant on the property there. And of course, after she gave birth, she was murdered. Her name was Delilah. She gave birth to Mary Ellen Pleasant. Mary Ellen Pleasant, if you Google, she became a very famous abolitionist. She was there shortly. She went to New Orleans, studied under Marie Laveau for a while, and then moved on into San Francisco and became a famous abolitionist. And funnily enough, she ended up passing in Sonoma County, which is where I'm from. So it was kind of like a small world. So yeah, there's lots of voodoo history. So all in all, I've probably had 3 separate teams come to the home, do their little researching, and let's just say that a lot of it has been cleaned out. However, you can't clean it all out. Just some places can't fully be cleaned because of the extensive history. bottom line, yes, it did have demonic activity. There was at least 4 portals and 1 vortex in the home. And I'm aware of the portals, and actually some of them aren't closed. My mom and I actually have been through a portal, believe it or not. We've experienced it. One of the famous ones was on the stairs. And I remember we were both walking up the stairs. I was probably about 4 stairs in front of her. We're walking up, and all of a sudden we felt really funny. We got this, fog head. And when I was talking to her, I sounded like I was talking from really far away. And I'm like, Mom, I don't feel right. Something's wrong. Why do you sound like you're so far away? And it was really hard to walk up the stairs, but we got through it. That was interesting. And as far as the physical part, my mom took the brunt of it, really. She's been scratched. She's been thrown down the stairs in front of me many times. Attacked. She has heart problems, mind you. My dad's attack was in the garage working on a car, and a piece of machinery decided to come to life on its own, circle saw, severed his wrist in the right way, which would be up and down. And luckily I was there, and I had to drive 90 miles an hour in a 40-mile zone and take him to the hospital, because they had said, if you wait for an ambulance, he would have bled out. And I had to apply a tourniquet and, basically saved his life. So that's how I learned about the paranormal on that flip side. But during all of that, it fractured me. It fractured me because it was so intense, so emotional, dealing, with my brother's passing. And all of a sudden I started developing abilities. And that's when I met Erica and started taking her classes. And the very first class I took with her, the very last day, and the class before the last class, I apparently had attachment or something. And I had to not come to the last class, and we had to do it, on Facebook Messenger because she had to clean her house. So I introduced her to the dark side, so to speak. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. I mean, it goes much deeper. I mean, as far as the portals, believe it or not, there's these things that are called interdimensional creatures that can come and go that we've seen. The ones that we've mostly seen are these shadow creatures that look like salamanders with these long claws. Those are the ones that like to scratch my mom. And they come and go through the portal. So, yeah. There's so much more, but I know it would take hours. But I thought I'd share a little. I mean, seriously, I have been through it all, and it's still happening. I mean, I have a connection with the house, and believe it or not, they can come and go, and they love to use the electronics. To this day, I can hardly ever have a conversation with my mom on the phone because it likes to disconnect us.
I was reading Mary's comments. Yeah, it's interesting. That's so crazy. Yeah. I consider myself lucky. Just a few experiences I had, because it's like definitely a spiritual boot camp.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I had a major crash course in the dark side fast. Mm-hmm. But now I've decided, I can either crash and burn because my brother was taken, early, or I can rise above that and use it for good. So I decided, after crashing and having many emotional breakdowns, because when you're fighting with the invisible and you don't know what to do, it can freak you out really bad. But I decided to use this experience, learn, from my abilities, pursue it. And basically it's justice for my brother, to use that and to help others that have been through, these types of experiences that I've been through, because I know what it's like. And if I can help other people, then that is my calling.
That's nice. That's one thing about a shaman,
Yeah.
is
That's my next course of action, actually.
traversing both the light and the dark, and some people do both,
Yeah.
and some people choose not to deal with the the darker side of things.
Yeah, no, see, I do walk that fine line.
Mm-hmm.
I was, put in that position basically, to walk that fine line, because every time I go to visit my mom in Georgia, sure enough, when I get in that house with her, because, she has abilities as well as my brother did too, it's like a bomb. And we, all kinds of stuff happens every single time. I mean, I've got hundreds of pictures and numerous videos of, paranormal activity. And it's amazing. Wow, it's really amazing. And every time I go there, I have all kinds of stories and things. It's never dull.
Have you guys
it really is.
You guys ever thought about just leaving that house?
Well, we would love to, still talking about it, but honestly, it's a matter of money, because when you invest a lot of money into the house, because this house they live, it's 5,000 square feet, so kind of a big house, and love to sell it. But yeah, it's
probably wouldn't want to wish that on anybody, though.
No, not really, because now that we've been on the dead files, unfortunately, every time I go there, but I'll get stopped there, or even get stopped here. Hey, I saw you on the dead files. Oh, thanks for reminding me. Yeah, because now that I've been through it, I'm like, please don't bring that up.
I think that's one of the first things I said to you when I met you.
Yeah, you did. You did. Oh man, you recognized me. Oh no. Yeah, that's me. It's different, because before I liked the show, but now that I've been on the show, I've been through it, I've seen the other side, not such a fan, because people don't realize what emotional stuff you go through to be on this show. You're literally reenacting your horror. And for the people. I didn't know. I was vulnerable. I needed help. I mean, mind you, I love Steve and I love Amy. She's awesome as hell. But it was very emotional to re-go through it. And especially when they're like, okay, wait a minute. We need to stop. You need to reword that. So you got to redo it again. And it's like it's breaking you down over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's traumatic.
It's fun.
Yeah. Well,
it is.
Well, shamanism would be fun for you, because it's about dealing with your shadow work and healing all your traumas.
I kind of started that a little bit on my own, as far as my shadow work and trying to work on that. But that is definitely my next step. Would be into I definitely want to do the shamanism part, because that feels like it's definitely up my alley, and I could use that to help other people.
Oh yeah, that's the beautiful thing about it. And what I learned from that experience, just having the experience I had, not only just paranormal, but traumas and stuff like that. Now, I don't know if you caught, our mentor Charlie's episode, but she explained it pretty good.
Yes, I did.
She says that Erica asked the question, can everybody be a shaman? She goes, everybody has the ability, but most people don't sign up for such a heavy task, because but it's, it would be a great thing. Like, if you go through these experiences, because part of doing that kind of heavier work is a shaman's ability, and it's like I was saying earlier in the broadcast, like having a spirit merge with me without my knowledge, and then having like all the energy sucked out of me, it sounds terrible, but that is like, hey, learn that this is what it feels like when someone's pulling your energy out of you. So now you know that, and that's basically how I learn anyway. So when you go through something that heavy, that probably mean that your life path is to help people in a way. And I don't think there's a lot of people who take that path. So there would definitely be a need for it, because there's a lot of people who need that kind of help, and not even every shaman takes that path to be able to help people, deal with those heavier sides. I mean, helping people with their traumas and pulling out their heavy energy out of them and transmuting it is one thing. That's like the basis of a shaman. It's almost something you can't even help do, but when you start getting to heavier stuff, some people take that path and some people don't, and you may be given that ability. And now that's something that it might even take some trial and error. But it's
I mean, I definitely want to get into it. And I and another reason is because I really want to, learn and educate people on when they're searching for certain teams, to come in and help them, that they really need to do the research, because we had the worst of the worst teams come in. Our first team came in and they immediately pointed at me and thought, oh, you're the cause of it, because they were judging me, by the way I look. And in my vulnerability, they performed an exorcism on me. And they said I had 13 attachments and all of this stuff. And that was traumatizing. The second team that came out said that I don't even know how to explain this, because I learned all of it really quick. They did kind of a necromancy thing on me, to where they did what they call a soul switch. Okay, this is really out there. And they said that when they were, looking into me, I had so much trauma on my soul that there was hardly anything left that they could fix. So they literally, supposedly pulled out my soul and replaced it with a new one. Okay, really? And so they did that. And so, I've been through the dark of the dark of the dark with the weirdest people, but I want to learn as much as I can to educate people. Be careful who you have come into your home. And the worst thing that I hate is they come into your home, they terrorize you, they violate you, and then there is no communication after that. There's no upkeep. There's no, hey, how you doing? What's been going on? Are you okay? Do we need to come out? Do we need, no checkup? And so they leave you like that. And that happened to us for years. And so I want to be the person to help the people and then call them up. Please get a hold of me if you have any questions. I'm here for you, to continue helping, because, you got to do the healing after, all of that situation, whatever it may be that they're going through.
It's not only closing it, but it's also the upkeep after is a big thing,
Yeah.
'Cause these like traumatized, these traumas develop into a mental state of how to act and how you think and what you do, and if you carry on that afterwards, then you're starting back at square one.
And kind of that happened to us, actually. It did, because the negativity, well, you know what that does? It feeds negativity. So what happens? You start manifesting poltergeists or other things, and you're feeding right back into it, and boop, you got the activity again.
And then this is one thing that I look at a lot of these paranormal shows, and I see a lot of people doing like podcasts and stuff like that. Yeah. And they'll be like, have some kind of doll or something here. They'll do like a live show, and they'll put like some, EMF readers up into that. And now, from people in our perspective who like, we don't have to go looking for these things, it's like, we don't need evidence. I just sit there and cringe.
No, they come to us. Okay. Yeah. They come to us.
And I just cringe. I'm just like, stop fucking around. Quit fucking around.
It's a total blatant, it's a disrespect for the dead. It totally is. The way I view it is, they're no different when they pass on. Yeah, you don't got your meat suit, but you're still the same soul. You're still the same personality. You're still the same everything. And so I can't even imagine what they're thinking over there, being terrorized, by these people. The ignorance that comes out of these shows is just, it's phenomenal.
And
The way they taunt. And it's like, these are souls. You're going to be that way one time yourself. You need to respect them. And, some of them may need help crossing over, but you're busy, getting your ratings and taunting and looking stupid. I can't stand it.
Yeah. And then a lot of these people, they, you go calling the wrong things, it's like Ouija boards, I do not like those things. I don't think they should exist. I remember, I was always pretty hard-headed and stubborn, and I was always rebellious. I wouldn't listen. But my mom, we were in Toys R Us when I was a kid, and I saw this. It's in Toys R Us, and it's a glow-in-the-dark Ouija board. I don't know what it is. I kind of get it.
I've had one.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, Mom, and of course they got to make it glow in the dark, of all things. You just got to make it more visually appealing,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want one of those. My mom's like, no, you're never owning one of those. And my mom will tell you firsthand, I never listened for shit when I was a kid. And I said, and that was the one thing I'm glad that I did. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to follow her advice on this one. I never fucked with it, and people mess with these things and they don't have any understanding about it or what they're doing. You're not.
No, that is true. I personally, how do I say this? I don't really have a problem with the board nor other tools of divination, because there's so many tools of divination. What I have a problem with are the people that use it because they're ignorant and they can do the wrong things. So it's not, I really wouldn't blame, the tools of divination, whether using a pendulum, spirit board, or whether using, the Ouija board or other things, or channeling for that matter. It's all tools of divination. It's the ignorance of the people that go in unprepared. They're not grounded, blah, blah, blah. And you can easily pull in some dark stuff. And they should not be playing with it at all. Yeah. It's just ignorance.
Yeah, I would shy away. Now, some people, like you were saying, some people use these things and they're like, it's a tool like anything else, but they have a good understanding of how to use it. I'll tell you what, I don't know how to use one. I don't know how to close one properly, and I'll never. Yeah. But of course, I don't need one.
No. I mean, I dabbled a couple times, probably in my teens, just like a lot of people. No, nothing happened. It's like end of story on that. But I was lucky. But you got to be really careful. Messing with that stuff. You got to know your stuff. Otherwise, you can bring in dark stuff. But then again, you can bring in dark stuff just going to Walmart. Yeah.
But it's
and bringing home stuff.
What kind of sick person has the thought that runs through their mind, hey, we should sell these things at Toys R Us?
I know. Mass manufacturing of that. And I'm like, why are you want to do that?
Yeah. You find this thing in a Toys R Us when you're a child and it's meant for children. Who? Yeah. That to me, that's no coincidence. That's some dark arts kind of stuff. That's some dark art stuff. They're like, let's put this in there. Yeah. Let's just get all these kids to mess around with this thing.
Let's mass market, this so we can have all kinds of dark stuff. It's all about money.
Yeah. Yeah. It's getting like, I do believe that there is more of an awakening happening in this day and age.
Yes.
It's getting crazy too. It's like, I was at the mall the other day in Hot Topic, and they got now out in the front of the store, it's like tarot cards and bundles of sage and stuff like that, and now they got another spiritual store to buy all this other stuff, which actually is pretty cool. My sister bought me some stuff for Christmas from it.
It's cool. I mean, it's cool to a degree, but other times it kind of bothers me because, they're mass marketing this stuff, but they're not actually educating you so much on how to use it. It's about the money. I mean, I'm more than happy, for them to pass it on and, and show people there's more to this world than meets the eye, so to speak. But they really need to educate you on using these things, because then all these people come in with these stones and tarot cards, just like the Ouija board. They start doing things wrong because it's trendy right now. There's got to be more education behind it to use it correctly.
Yeah. I mean, as above, so below. There's always a negative and a positive. There has to be,
Yeah.
Electrons and protons, negative, positive, make you got to have those two forces to make everything exist, so everybody's got to keep it in mind, and it's funny too, because when they try to search of evidence of spirits and stuff like that, it's not a crossover high vibrational spirit. It's lower vibrational, and now lower vibrational could be earthbounds, which I have a lot of respect for too, and it would some stick around and some want to be crossed over and stuff like that. And then it goes lower than that. It's like that's what you're getting, you're not talking to anything of a high vibration when you as well as I do, when you do like mediumship and contact high vibrational, you feel that energy, you feel the difference. I remember Erica would have us do this exercise where it's like we start with an earthbound, because the energy in the air in the room just goes stagnant, And then,
I'm aware of that very well.
And then you work up to what some people might not know is that there's actually pets go in the afterlife. You work with pets, and that's like that zooms you up. And then you work with spirits. You work with crossover spirits, and that kind of almost gives you like a high. It's high vibrating and stuff like that. And it's like that's not what you're getting when you're out there trying to mess around aggressively searching for things. And it's cool to have a curiosity, but I think as the world kind of awakens more and more, there should be some education that needs to go along with it, like you were saying,
Yeah, there has to be, because those lower vibrationals, I know for a fact, they drain you. You become very ill. I myself, developed a lot of autoimmune issues, due to being drained so bad from these things. So I have to do a lot of self-healing. It's ugly, and it's scary. It can kill you. It can literally kill you, with sickness. And, I've seen so much visually. There's nothing like, walking down the hall and coming face to face with, shadow figures, coming at you and attacking you. And have you heard of the term called a tulpa?
No.
Okay. A tulpa is something that you yourself, through trauma, you can actually make a copy of yourself, a shadow version of yourself. Apparently, I was so traumatized, I actually did this, and I have pictures of a shadow figure that is me. And it was at my mom's house, and I was actually able to do that. Why, I don't know, but I was told I was doing it because I was so concerned with that house that I literally left a part of me there when I came back to Maryland. So, you do need to be educated when you start dabbling, because when you get in that lower vibrational stuff, there is so much out there that we're not even aware of yet. And we're not going to know it all. Even when we die, we're not going to know it all. There's so much more out there. Things, it's fascinating. From a distance it is, but I guess once you've lived in it, you just kind of go with it, and you want to learn more and more and more, educate yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing your stories with us.
No problem.
Had a great time. Maybe we could do this again. I actually want to start turning this into like, I don't know if I want to do it once a month, maybe if
Mhm.
more people join in and start sharing their experience, I might start doing it more often. But it's,
Yeah.
here they
Yeah.
got these things. It's not necessarily the pivotal point of this channel, but our channel is
Mhm.
about trying to spread a healing message and awareness that people could understand. But this is definitely some
Oh,
really
yeah.
cool stuff. And actually, there is good information that comes of it too. Like basically,
Yeah.
don't fuck around. you know?
No. Seriously, that's the whole thing right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be respectful. Don't mess around. Don't be calling and
Yeah.
stuff. Um,
Yeah.
it's um, there definitely needs to be more education out there, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Thanks for coming on and sharing. Then we're going to
Oh, no problem.
call it a night, and stay tuned. We
Yeah.
actually have a pretty cool episode I've been keeping that I might release next week that I've did a week ago.
Awesome.
I think everybody will enjoy on psychic readings and stuff.
Ooh, okay. That's cool.
All right, everybody, y'all have a good night.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
All right. Bye.